Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Dr. Ray and we're going to be doing a pet food cheat sheet review today. It's a nice day, so we're doing this outside. Literally have the camera propped on a plant of some sort. So hopefully everything turns out well, but it is just too nice of a day to spend inside. So we're taking advantage of that today. Tony's hanging out with us, so you may see him in the background. I have been doing a bunch of cheat sheets using a new program that I made for myself, incorporating my pet food scoring system. If you're new to this channel and you do not know what that is, I definitely have some videos outlining that. I also have 2 workbooks that are going to go through this process step by step, from conversions to knowing what specific numbers to look for your pet's life stage, how to calculate their calories. Everything we're going to be going over is detailed in those workbooks. So you can definitely get those. There'll be a link in the description box. But I used that method, my pet food scoring system method, and I kind of made myself a little program where I can put together some nice cheat sheets for you guys, so I can review big, bulk, popular brands, kind of so you can see a little tasting of what they have to offer. And so I've actually created quite a catalog of these at this point. And so I think we're going to pick one today, maybe 2. I'm going to go over a couple of them while I have the time. So let's see which one we're going to pick to do today. Yes, here they are. All right, options for today. We can do Blue Buffalo, we can do Canada, we can do Origin, we can do Wellness, we can do Merrick. Those are the ones that I've already done. I think we'll do Merrick. Let's do Merrick. The reason why I'm picking Merrick is I have a really good selection here for Merrick. I have traditionally had some issues with reviewing the brand because I had trouble finding the information. But now that I kind of wrote this little program, computer program, I can kind of get the information a little bit more clearly, and so I think this is going to be good. I do have, I think, 1 or 2 previous videos on Merrick, and so it didn't score well on those videos, kind of spoiler alert. But it was just a small sampling, so I get asked about Merrick all the time, so I went ahead and I ran Merrick through my pet food scoring system program. And so let's go ahead and do some Merrick foods today. The cheat sheet that we're going to be using will be available in totality on my website, so you can download it. If you want to pause the video right here and go and download it so that you can have it to look at, that might be helpful. And then you can pick up and you'll know exactly where we are headed. So on the top of the cheat sheet worksheet, you will see that this was created October 23rd, 2025 at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as companies change and things change and formulations change, you always want to make sure that the food that you are reviewing is up to date, especially if you're referencing this video, because formulations do change. Prices obviously change. They used to include pricing, but pricing shrinkflation, bags become more expensive, price per pound is going down, or price is going up per pound. Bags are getting smaller, and so always cross-reference the information you're getting today. Even calling the company if you can and getting the information is best. The numbers we're going to be looking at are converted to a dry matter basis, so a lot of you out there that are not familiar with what that means, a lot of you will say, well, the numbers that I saw on the package are different than the numbers that you are giving. They absolutely are, because the numbers on the package are not dry matter. They're guaranteed analysis. There's minimums and maximums. There's wiggle room. And so, yes, the best thing to do is to call a company and get the information. I will say it is very difficult with Merrick. It has been very traditionally difficult with Merrick to get the information. Calling, emailing has been somewhat unrewarding. And so I do recommend that you cross-reference these numbers if possible by getting a hold of somebody. And if any of my subscribers do that, I will be happy to post any amendments that are necessary in the description box. Information on how to do these dry matter conversions, again, are in the workbook, and I've tried to make it as simple as possible with literally put the number here, put the number here, put the number here, spit out the answer. But with these worksheets, they are, that information's already done for you. You don't have to do that. You only have to do that if you are looking for a diet that I have not included on this sampling. So let's get into Merrick. and get into some of the specifics. So I did include a little brand overview. I'm starting to do that in these cheat sheets. So Merrick Pet Care, founded over 30 years ago in Hereford, Texas. It's considered a premium pet food brand. They specialize in high quality dog and cat foods, treats, and toppers. You got to take that term high quality with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter how quality the food is if the food's not balanced. And so people will say all the time, well, if a food's balanced, you think you should be able to feed cardboard if they can spray some vitamins and feed cardboard. No, I don't. I just think that you should look at if a food is balanced first before you go into some of these other things, because there's no point in feeding a food if it's not balanced. Like, that is the bare minimum, in my opinion. The bare minimum is that a food is balanced. From there, we start stacking the blocks. I don't think it makes any sense to look for a food that is high quality just to find out your high quality food isn't even balanced. So that's what I'm saying, and I think I agree with a lot of people in the comment sections that come for me. They just don't realize we're looking for the same thing. I am just trying to help you streamline your process, because everybody is always telling me how confused they are, and I am trying to make it less confusing. If you start out with a food that is balanced, then you can start easily adding things in, versus the other way around. Do all this research, find all these ingredients, find all these companies you feel comfortable with, just to find out in the end all that work was for naught because the food's not balanced, and then you guys get mad at me. So I think we all agree we want a balanced food that is nutritious, as for the best price point as possible within our budget. I think we all agree on that. I'm just suggesting to you what I feel is an easier method. And so they use that term high quality. They were acquired by Nestlé Purina in 2015, so it's a Purina brand. A lot of people may not know that. A lot of people hate Purina, the big three. Well, here you go. Merrick is just part of that conglomeration. I don't have a problem with that personally, but just pointing that out. Merrick emphasizes USA sourced ingredients. They use deboned meats as a primary ingredient, no artificial colors. I like that. Flavors are preservatives. And you have grain-free options, which I do not care for. That is a marketing thing that is actually a ding on nutrition because of the issues that it's causing with heart disease. But they also have healthy grain options, so you can see they're playing both sides of the card there, so that they can cater to a diverse nutritional need. I will tell you, there are no dogs that need a grain-free diet from a veterinary standpoint. And so what they are catering to is the consumer's desires. All right. So the products we're going to be reviewing today are the grain-free chicken and sweet potato, grain-free Texas beef, grain-free real salmon, grain-free healthy weight, grain-free large breed, the healthy grains, chicken and brown rice, healthy grains, real lamb and brown rice, and the healthy grains, healthy weight, and the limited ingredient chicken and brown rice. And I'll have a bit to say on each of these things to help you put it into perspective. Below the charts, you will see some footnotes. I encourage you to read those. Those have to do with the parameters that I am including. And in the bottom chart is specifically the nutritional breakdown. If a product if I could not find for a product the calcium and phosphorus, which is a really common issue with Merrick, then it was no points assigned. And so highly recommend you hound them for that information, because I do think it is important, especially for our senior pets. But I can only provide the information that I have available to me. Otherwise, it would be radio silence like it has been, and people keep asking. So I'm doing the best that I can with that information. So as you look through the chart, it's very easy to see that none of these foods had AAFCO feeding trials done, and so they all got a 0 point awarded for that. Not a single one of them did. Not a lot of research going on here in the Merrick's department, and so no points assigned there. I was happy though that all of the foods that I chose to sample were the appropriate life stage for an adult. They did not jump on the all life stage bandwagon, so I was happy about that. And then as we get into the individual ones, we'll start getting down to the actual nitty-gritty nutrient analysis. So the grain-free chicken and potato, they were over, and this tends to be an issue, as you can see, with all the grain-free options. They are overloading them quite a bit in the protein department. And so none of the grain-free options got a point for protein because they were over the sweet spot. And the sweet spot is small animal clinical nutrition numbers. Those are numbers that are far more optimized than AAFCO. Small animal clinical nutrition takes data from research. They take data from the NRC, and that's how they compile the optimal nutritional numbers. And so the numbers that I'm suggesting you guys look for, and the numbers that are in my workbook, and the numbers that are in clinical nutrition are optimized numbers. They're not just legal requirements, okay? So they fall out of the range for all of their grain-free options in that department. Fat was good. Their fat ranges, they've got some moderate fat. The grain-free chicken, the real Texas beef, and the real salmon are kind of a moderate fat at 18%, which is still fine. They did have a little bit of a lower fat option at 11.2, which was their grain-free healthy weight. But again, we've got that grain-free thing that I just really feel like you could find a grain-inclusive diet that is going to hit the marks a little bit higher. So we'll see when we get to the final score for that. None of the calcium phosphorus on this brand, they weren't available. Usually when they're not available, they're not paying enough attention to it, which is usually a key that they're not in range. I do not know that because I could not get that. So could not award them any points for any of their foods on the calcium and phosphorus. And then we are going to go ahead and award them proper points for fiber for every diet, except for the healthy weight grains diet, and that's because the fiber was too high, which is classic when we're having a weight loss diet that is one of those calorie restriction high fibers. There are different ways that companies can help you with a weight loss plan. One of the more common ones is to boost the fiber and decrease the calories, and so that's what they were doing with their healthy grain weight, and so they did lose the point for that when you're looking in the chart. So we'll go over kind of the pros and cons of that when we get to that option. None of these foods were raw, and then all of them were appropriately calculated to feed your pet on the feeding guide if we took the 20-pound dog as our model. And so you can see that they all were awarded points for that. On the very right-hand column, you're going to see a hyperlink if you download this cheat sheet. With that hyperlink, if you click it, and let me start a screen capture here to show you guys how it works. Tony's taking a bath during the video. Tony, you bathing? It's a nice day for a bath on the lanai. The hyperlink here, you see, it's going to take you to the website for that particular package, and you can click where to buy. You can see the price, and you can also click on all their kind of information and their extended product details so that you can see exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so that's how the chart works, and the hyperlinks work. So that was the first one, and because of all the things we talked about being grain-free and the heart disease stuff, the calcium, the phosphorus being off, it ends up that grain-free chicken and potato, sweet potato, only scores a 5 out of 10. In fact, all the grain-free options, 5 out of 10 on the beef, 5 out of 10 on the salmon, and 5 out of 10 on the healthy weight grain-free, all score a 5 out of 10, which to me is well below what I'm looking for a diet. I want at least a 7. 7 usually means, some things are missing, but like the bulk of it is okay. When you start getting 5 out of 10, even when people say to me, well, I don't believe in the grain-free thing, I don't know how that's not true. I've got tons of data, links that you guys can read. I still get people saying, there's no research to say, like, oh my gosh, there's so much. Like, go in the community tab. I've post things constantly peer-reviewed, just like the recent peer-reviewed studies. But anyway, if you don't believe that and you want to add back the point for the grain-free thing, still only 6 out of 10. So, that's where we're at with Merrick. 5 out of 10 for all the grain-free options. They did have some good options though. So I do want to highlight the good options if this is a brand that you really like. And so when we get down to the healthy grains chicken and brown rice, they were able to bring that up to a 7 out of 10. The only thing they were missing, in fact, the healthy grains chicken and brown rice and the healthy grains real lamb and brown rice, those two diets, they're scoring a 7 out of 10, only leaving points for the feeding trial and the minerals. So 2 pretty good options there for the Merrick brand. As I was talking to you guys about before, the healthy grains weight control, it scored a 6 out of 10, which generally is below what I'm looking for. But this is where you have to look at your specific needs and really use your brain and not just say, look, I'm just going cut and dry numbers. There may be healthy weight diets that do score a 7 out of 10 without this little concession, but it's because of the fiber, right? And if you can acquiesce that we are feeding a higher fiber food, which is not necessarily detrimental to your pet. There are some pets that don't do as well with a higher fiber diet, may cause some gas and things like that. But if your pet does well with it and it needs that for the weight loss, this may be a winner for you. So consider that 6 out of 10 for the healthy weight, grain inclusive, but not a bad option in general if you're taking that into consideration. And then we have the limited ingredient real chicken and brown rice, and I want to take a minute to talk about this particular topic. It does score a 7 out of 10, which is fine. It's a perfectly fine food at 7 out of 10. I think any animal, even animals that don't need a limited ingredient diet, are okay with feeding this because it, potentially is a 7 out of 10 and it may be in your price point and it may be something that you've been looking for. Let's click over to the website and take a look at the actual what limited ingredient means. Limited ingredient is a buzzword. It is a marketing thing that for veterinarians, and I'm just telling you as a veterinarian so you know where your veterinarian is coming from, the words limited ingredient on an over-the-counter diet mean absolutely nothing. Okay? Merrick, as you can see, makes a ton of foods. All those foods are processed in the same plant, probably on the same line. There is no legal requirement to list your food limited ingredient and not process it with the other foods. Okay? It's just a name. It is just a name. This food could be called optimum ingredient. This food could be called spicy ingredient, could be called sexy ingredient, could be called secret ingredient. It doesn't matter. It's just a name. It doesn't require them to do anything special to the diet. Okay? And so as a veterinarian, if your pet has a medical condition that I have diagnosed, like a food sensitivity or a food allergy, this diet, regardless of the name, is not appropriate. I am not going to consider this a treatment plan option for your pet. Because if your pet needs a medical treatment that is a diet, it needs a medical grade diet. What does that mean? It needs to be a prescription diet. You cannot feed an over-the-counter labeled limited ingredient diet to a dog or a cat with a food allergy as a treatment method. You can feed it, but you are not treating the allergy, okay? Because when you feed a prescription diet, it's either hydrolyzed so that it is changed to be hypoallergenic, physically, chemically changed to be hypoallergenic. That is a prescription because it has to be used a process that is regulated, or it has to be a prescription limited ingredient diet. Not very many people use those anymore because hydrolyzed diets are far better for allergies, efficacy-wise, than limited ingredients. We don't really even use limited ingredients anymore in pets with food allergies. But even those would be prescription because the line would be completely clean, completely disinfected. There is legally requirements on there to make sure it is processed in a way that there's no cross-contamination. We know for a fact, as veterinarians, from research and testing foods and dermatologists, over-the-counter diets switching from 1 to 1 to 1, just because one says beef or one says chicken or one says limited ingredient, it is not going to help your pet's food allergies. So the food is fine. You can certainly feed it if you want to. I just want you guys to be aware that it is not a treatment for food allergy. So just, me helping you guys out so you don't waste your money on that and you don't think you're doing a good thing and you go in the veterinarian and then, there's some discourse and your veterinarian is trying to explain it, because it happens to me all the time and I feel really bad when I have to explain that to people. And sometimes it just doesn't sink in because they've convinced themselves that they are already feeding a limited ingredient diet and they don't understand why they need to go onto the prescription diet. It's because your limited ingredient diet is just a name. It is not a medical grade limited ingredient diet. So if anything from this video, I hope that maybe sinks in. Sometimes you can look, if they have it, at the ingredient list, and let's see. Sometimes you can pick up on that on the ingredient list. Sometimes, but not always. So deboned chicken, chicken meal, brown rice, oats, sweet potato, chicken flaxseed, natural flavor. So there's the problem right there. So that right there, that natural flavor, in order to use that terminology, natural flavors on a pet food, that does not have to be chicken. All right. So that term natural flavor can be any meat source, any protein source, anything, fat source, anything that they want to use as a palate enhancer. Even if it's like an additive that they're adding to it as natural flavor, that probably has a bunch of different protein sources on it. So that's going to discredit this as a food allergy diet. So that's a little tip for you guys. I don't recommend you ever feed an OTC diet as a prescription diet, but if you are like, don't believe me and you want to do it, if the diet lists natural flavor in the ingredient list, it's already got a mixture of unapproved proteins in it. So that would be my tip to you on that. So all in all, you can see Merrick has some options that are want, and those are going to be the options that are, in my opinion, they are mostly for marketing because they serve no medical purpose. They are inferior foods, they're inferior balanced, and they don't have grains, which could lead to your pet having heart disease. So I don't see any reason to mess around with those. But if you are a fan of the Merrick brand for whatever reason, your uncle works for them and you think they're great, I would stick to something like the healthy grains, the healthy, the limited ingredient would even be fine, even for a dog that doesn't need a limited ingredient diet. Or if you have an overweight dog, you might even be satisfied with the healthy weight grain inclusive option. Okay? And then you guys can scroll down the chart and you can see the actual numbers. Again, a lot of these are derived from minimums and maximums, which is not ideal, so they are not exact, but it's best that I can do from the company. With the information that I was given, just to give you guys kind of a little bit of a tasting of Merrick. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this format, let me know. I think I'm going to be sticking with it. I feel like it really speaks to my analytical, logical self. So hopefully it resonates with you guys as well. I do have a link on my website, and I'll list my website down here, where you can request kind of a similar personal review for your pet. And I can do this and include your particular pet's calories and nutritional needs, and you can get a ballpark for your particular pet. So click on that link, check out the workbooks, and yeah, we'll just keep trucking on next week on Thursday. So I hope you guys will like, subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll hang out again real soon.